big, big announcement. There is going to be a live
Huge.
stream of the IPL auction on this channel. Don't forget to watch it. Tell your friends about it. You got to tune in. It is at, what time is it? 2:30,
Indian Standard Time,
I think.
9 a.m. British
British
Standard Time.
time. I think so.
Uh,
But you know when it is. But either way,
yeah.
don't, if you don't want to miss the live stream starting, hit subscribe and hit the bell icon. Okay? That's really important.
Hello, welcome back to the Cricket Nerds. You have me and James today, and there's just so much cricket going on that we had to make a podcast about all that's going on because there's some pretty interesting developments going on in the world of cricket. Some aren't really surprising. West Indies can't be beaten at home. India can't be beaten at home, and Australia can't be beaten at home. And that's, I think that's the summary of it already. I reckon we'll start with talking about the India South Africa white ball stuff that's going on at the moment. I mean, India lost the first game pretty convincingly, and then won the second T20 match in incredible fashion with another Sky 2020 century. And my question for you, James, is why can't he do it in 50 over cricket? Why is it just 2020 cricket where he comes to play?
It's really weird, isn't it? And obviously, they are the first and second ones that have been played. I think they're third or second and third in the series, just because the first one was rained off. But yeah, I've got no idea why he finds it so different. I don't know if it's just like the freedom that he can play with, the fact that he does not have to value his wicket, because the way he plays, it's irrelevant that there are, 5 sticks behind him that mean that, if two of them get dislodged, he's out. He doesn't care. He's not concentrating on anything behind him apart from where the boundary is and if he can flick it over his head to it. It's
Yeah.
he's so impressive, and yet just a world apart from how he played in the 50 over World Cup. Now, the question I've got for you is, what are we framing these bilaterals with now? Because in it's either the T20 World Cup, which is happening soonish. Like, there's always a World Cup around the corner. Too many of them, if you ask me. But there is a T20 World Cup next year, and there's also the IPL. Now, what do you think is at the forefront of players' minds more? Is it, I want to perform well so that we know how we're going to perform in the World Cup, or I'm going to get in the World Cup squad, or is it, I'm looking for that juicy IPL deal?
I think there's a lot at stake, really. I mean, in the IPL, it's if you're not part of a franchise, you've got to perform because you want to get the big money, and you want to play for the best teams. So I think that's at play. I think also for certain players, I think about well, realistically, every single player that plays in that Indian team is going to be a first choice pick for their franchise, especially in the T20 squad. If you're making your T20 squad for your country, you're going to be making the first 11 for your IPL team. The question is the South African mindset of Aiden Markram wants to get picked in the first 11 as one of the overseas options. Keshav Maharaj, he wants to be picked up in the auction. There's lots of things at play for South Africa in that regards. For India at the moment, I think whenever they have a bilateral, for me, it's just who's the next big thing? Who can we show that's capable to perform at the international level? And for me, the player who stood out, I know he didn't have the best of games in the third 2020, but Rinku Singh has been impressing me so much lately for India. And he just makes that Kolkata Knight Riders squad look a lot more dangerous. But yeah, I think that's kind of India's goal, is kind of thinking about the future all the time, which isn't a
Yeah,
bad option, I don't think.
the reason I mention it is just because it does seem like a lot of international teams because that's where a lot of the players make up their salaries. It
Mm.
seems like that might be where their heads at more so than the actual team performance. And India have played chess, not checkers, where
Mhm.
they've got this IPL. Obviously that boosts the whole financial side and it lets them realize more players, but also it means that in the bilateral series they just focus on India, and that's probably why they win so many bilaterals. I'm just going to hit you with some disgusting stats for Rinku Singh.
Yeah, it is
Averages
pretty mad.
65 after 12 matches, at a strike rate of 180 in T20s.
Not
That's
bad, is it
ridiculous.
really?
For a finisher, I'd say he's all right. Um, that's
Yeah.
absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, he's India are starting to develop a lot of these players that are just completely fearless,
Mhm.
fearless finishers, and that's what they
Yeah.
need. Before it was like Hardik Pandya was like a revolutionary figure in that Indian side because he was somebody that could go from ball one in that sort of 5-6 position, and if he came in with 4 or 5 overs to go, he could take the game away from a team, or he could chase down the total. Now they're starting to produce more and more of these players. Rinku Singh is one. Sky is kind of another. Jitesh Sharma, he hasn't done a great series this so far, but in general, he's somebody else that kind of fits that mold. So
Mm.
I think India are sort of going from strength to strength, just by developing players that have got the specific skill sets for T20, even if they don't necessarily cross over to the other formats.
Yeah, well, saying that, I mean, you look at some of the players who have come through from the IPL and have ended up playing Test match cricket. I think about Mohammad Siraj as an example. Um, you could argue Shubman Gill potentially, Ishan Kishan, and there are certain players who India India definitely still see Test cricket as the pinnacle of playing cricket. That's the aim that you want to do for your country, and in times gone past, maybe, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, teams would play they'd debut someone in an ODI match to kind of think, do you think they're ready for the test game? Whereas kind of it looks a bit different now, doesn't it? In the fact that you've got 2020's ODIs test matches, and it's like, no, you're a 2020 player, you're a test match player, whatever. But there are obvious transferable skills across, and especially the way test match cricket's changing with baseball, etc. That it's definitely something to watch in terms of some of these young players. Do India have long-term goals in mind for them? And obviously, Sky hasn't worked playing the one-day format, but for some players like Mohammad Siraj, it definitely has. For me, with India at the moment, it's just their role definition is so clear. Shubman Gill knows every game he plays he's going to be opening the batting. So does Jaiswal. Rinku Singh, Suryakumar Yadav, they know they're coming in at the end of the innings to finish the game off. That's kind of the roles they've got, and they play them very well. And so, yeah, it's just very clear. Should we talk about England versus, well, just England cricket mostly, but also playing against the West Indies in a 2020 series? Um, I look at that West Indian lineup, and I think every single one of those players is just there to hit as many sixes as they can. Um, and I look at the England lineup and I'm like, where are the sixes coming from? Um, it's been a bit disappointing from an England point of view, hasn't it?
It has, after a very disappointing ODI World Cup. Um, I think a lot of England fans were just like, "Well, we're doing better at Test matches now, and we've got a bunch of hitters that can do it at T20."
Mm.
And now we're kind of learning that, oh, we don't have the hitters that can do it at T20, and in is it January? We're going to get slapped around in India, so it's going to be a miserable few months for English cricket. But um, I don't think that all hope needs to be lost. I think there are many questionable decisions from Joss Butler. I think there are many questionable decisions from Matthew Mott. And I think it's a lot of tactical stuff. There's a lot of mistakes that are being made from that point of view that are costing England games. In the first T20 against West Indies, they been kind of over bowling certain players, like Liam Livingstone bowled like the 15th over, I think, or the 15th or 16th over. It was one of them where it was like, that's pretty much a death over at this point. Why are you bowling a part-time leg spinner? It's even if he's bowling well up to that point, if he's not a front line leggy or front line bowler such as Adil Rashid or Rahan Ahmed, I don't want to see it. And that kind of tactical decision is just quite short-sighted and silly. I was thinking a lot of the selection, the balance of the side is weird. Just take the last game, for example, where England only had to chase down 177. That's all they needed on a spinning pitch. Don't get me wrong, and that's going to be a theme we talk about across both England sides. Is England versus spin? But one of the best spin players we've got in our team in that setup in the 11 that we played is Moeen Ali. He's a left-hander. West Indies were playing two left-arm spinners, turns it into the left-hander. Even for like Chennai Super Kings, the whole reason they brought Moeen Ali in to bat at 3 was to be a specialist left-arm spin hitter or leg spin hitter. That was his whole role. He'd come in just after the power play and hit over the leg side, hit some sixes. This time they stuck with their top 3 that they wanted to play the whole time, which was Phil Salt, Joss Butler, and Will Jacks. Fine. None of them did very well at all. And then they send in Sam Curran at 4. Now, he did well, don't get me wrong. But wouldn't it have made more sense to send Moeen Ali in at 4? And if not, fine. Send him in at 5. If not, fine. Send him in at 6. But no, we put in Liam Livingstone and Harry Brook, 2 players that have not shown that accomplishment at the international level against spin. Harry Brook, he was good against spin in Pakistan when it wasn't really doing much because he picks up length fast. But he's not good against the turning ball when it's actually doing something. And Liam Livingstone has shown that he has zero application. He's the next generation of Moeen Ali. And you can only really afford to have one player like that in a team. One player where they'll get themselves into a good position, hit some good shots. And as an England fan, you start getting optimistic and then they throw it all down the drain.
The way I'm viewing England batting at the moment is it's kind of like someone trying to sprint through water. Like it just seems so painful to watch how England's batters, who are supposedly big hitters of the ball, struggle to time it, struggle to clear the fielders to hit it for 6. Instead, they find fielders in the deep or they cloth it. And it's just so painful to watch. And you think about some of the players that England have had when they won the World Cup. You think about Johnny Bairstow, Jason Roy, Alex Hales. I know he didn't play in the World Cup, but he's kind of was in that sort of setup. Owen Morgan, Joe Root, like they were the star players who had kind of built up their kind of game before the World Cup. They'd built up the game before the 4-year process as well, before England won the World Cup, and they were really good. They were star quality players, and England have kind of just got to the end of the era, left them all behind, and that's it. It's like Joss Butler's the only one left. Joss Butler's the only one who I can see in that team who I'm like, you are a integral part of England's white ball team, and you're someone who can score at a ridiculous rate and win games of cricket. It's the only one that I see in that team currently who has the ability to do that. I feel like Moeen Ali's past it. I might be being quite harsh on the England team, but I just don't see. I understand England trying to move forward, but you've got to think about winning games of cricket at this point in time because it's the game of sport, international sport, is winning games for your country. And yeah, it's kind of hard to watch, really.
So I think I'm a bit more optimistic. I
Mm.
I see Phil Sol and Will Jacks, and I think they're both players that can take a game away. They're both ultra aggressive top order batters. I would prefer to actually see those two opening. I think, um, weirdly enough, I would prefer to see them opening over Joss Butler. I think Butler's so versatile that he could slot into that number 3 slot.
Mm.
And I mean, what he needs to do is take a month break. He needs
Yeah,
to not
for
play
sure.
cricket for a while because the guy he must be on his last legs at this point. He needs a serious break. Sam Curran, I see as somebody that he could do better. He shows these glimmers with both bat and ball. I mean, this is the first time he's really shown glimmer with the bat at international level, and he really just. I think he needs to practice more. I don't really know,
Mm.
but he's not far off being a really good all rounder. But at the moment, he's just an okay bits and pieces player. I don't
Yeah.
know what you think about that.
I think Sam Curran he can almost, we can allow him to be a bit inconsistent at this stage of his career. Like you say, we see moments where he's awesome and he wins games single-handedly. Uh, I think there does come a time when a cricketer needs to develop that consistency and be a consistent match winner. Um, Joe Root was inconsistent at one stage in his career. Joss Butler was inconsistent at one stage of his career. So is Ben Stokes. But as they came into the game a bit more, as they got a bit more experience, they were becoming more consistent match winners. And I think Sam Curran will get there. We can't say, oh, we think Sam Curran's going to win every game of cricket for us straight away. Same with Rahan Ahmed. I mean, he's really exciting. He's the most exciting player we've got in our team currently for me.
Mm.
And he's not going to have great days every day. He's not going to be able to take 3 for 20 in every 2020 match. He's going to have days where he goes for 15 and over because of his lack of experience. But it comes, and someone like Sam Curran, I think that will happen as well. But whilst we don't have those consistent match winners in the team, we're not going to win many matches consistently, and
Yeah.
that's part of the issue, isn't it?
Now we've moaned enough about England's players. Well, let's briefly talk about West Indies because what they have done is really apply themselves in the last 2 games.
For sure.
Um, and even when a lot of their players haven't done well, Shimron Hetmeyer has been about as useful as a chocolate teapot. But some of their other players have really stepped up. Captain Rodman Powell absolutely took Sam Curran's bowling to pieces. Brandon King has been really good. So that it's interesting to see how West Indies perform. Andre Russell also returning has done pretty well, but I'm really interested because obviously West Indies cricket has been in a bit of a weird place recently, and it's mostly organisational. Um, and Jason Holder, Nick Pooran, and Kyle Mayers all refused central contracts with West Indies. And obviously, we know that like Karan Pollard retired internationally, Sunil Narayan hasn't played for ages. Um, there's just there are so many talented West Indian players. Like they've dominated the IPL for the last sort of 10 years, and yet West Indies cricket has seen this critical decline, and it does seem to be completely organizational. So where do you think West Indies go from here? Do you think that they'll do more sort of cameos, kind of like Andre Russell is doing here, where he's coming in and Jason Holder, he doesn't have a central contract, but he'll come and play when he's not at a franchise tournament. Do you think that's what we'll see?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, West Indies cricket's in a dodgy place because they don't get the same support and funding as a lot of the other cricket boards do. And for a lot of the players, it makes sense for them to have their livelihood to go and play in these bigger leagues where they're getting lots of money. So it makes sense for them to go and do that. And at the moment, well, as you said, for the last 10 years and maybe even 15 years, West Indies have been producing 2020 players who have just dominating 2020 cricket in all these leagues around the world. It does present that sort of, oh, it's a shame that the best West Indian players aren't playing for West Indies all the time and aren't playing Test cricket either. It is a shame, but you can't argue with the decision they're making necessarily because they're doing it for themselves. So it completely makes sense. My thing with West Indies at the moment is their pitches are built for that team. They're quite hard to beat at home. As I said at the start of this podcast, they are a challenge at home, and they beat India in a 2020 series, not too long ago in home conditions. So yeah, their home conditions might do them favors, but it might stop them from playing as well overseas, which is why they're not doing so well in getting into the World Cup, etc.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's things that could change. Whether they will in the short term, I can't see it happening.
Right. Let's move on to Test cricket. Let's move on to some real cricket now. We've
Real
waffled
Cricket
enough about the
23
white ball stuff.
sponsoring this video. No, just
Right. So I reckon we go to India first,
okay.
where England's women are touring India and getting absolutely battered by them. India's women, they batted first, and they put on some baseball like numbers because pretty much everybody got a start, and there were some decent strike rates. Let me tell you, we've got like Shubha, who was the number 3, got 69, a strike rate of 90. Jemima Rodriguez only got 68 off 99. We see Harmanpreet Kaur 49. She was run out, absolute howler. I don't know if you saw that. I'll tell you about it in a minute. But they all kind of got starts. Like 4 people got in the 60s, and they ended up putting up 428. So that for me showed that they would just thought, we're just going to take the game to these England bowlers that aren't used to these conditions necessarily, and they did really well doing it because the pressure was instantly on the bowler, and they seemed to bat very selflessly. So I was really impressed with it. The Harmanpreet Kaur run out was an absolute howler, right? So I believe she was at the striker's end. She was just tapped it into the offside, and oh no, sorry, no, it was she was backing up, and she was on 49, and she just kind of turned around just to tap her back into the crease. It looks like a bat got stuck in the ground.
Oh no.
And everybody's kind of played it as if it was normal. And I think it even flashed up saying that she'd got a 50. And then yeah, and then it was you run out for 49. So it was a bit of a howler. Yeah, not good at all. But
Yeah.
England, there is a theme where, and you'll notice this across all women's cricket, for England, is that they're not very good against spin in India. So what? Nobody is. But Nat Siva-Brunt somehow finds a way every single time. She is far and away England's strongest batter. And when nobody else got over 20, she got 59 at a strike rate of 84.
I mean,
It's kind of,
she's been England's best batter for probably the last year.
mm,
She's been really impressive in all conditions against all oppositions, and she'll probably win some end of year awards or something. She's been really impressive, and yeah, she's kind of was a bit of a lone soldier in that performance. With India, whether it's women or men, they have this know-how in terms of being able to build partnerships.
mm,
Um, and I think it's due to their ability of playing spin, is that they can ride the tide of when a spinner is on top and bowling well. Whereas most teams when they go and tour, and as we've seen England women suffer, is that someone like Deepti Sharma, who is a very skillful spinner, got on top, and England really struggled to be able to play Deepti Sharma, and that was the issue. They weren't able to ride um out the pressure that was put on them, and they just crumbled under it. Whereas India, in their home conditions, kind of sense when the spinner's getting the best of them and can kind of keep going. And so, yeah, India, unless England managed to bat out for 2 days, India are going to absolutely hammer England in this one.
Yeah.
Um, or maybe we'll see similar things to what Pakistan are doing against Australia, where after Australia scored 400 against them, they think, well, let's just block it out.
Yeah, let's
4 days.
bore them all. So
Yeah.
can we just have a big shout out to Imam Al Haq, who is
Oh
putting
yeah.
on an absolute clinic right now. It's like watching you bat in a T20. He's on
No, T10.
38,
Come on, give me credit.
38 off 136, strike rate of 27. Oh,
Yeah, it's
beautiful
painful.
things.
It's
So
lovely.
yeah, Australia, they it's kind of David Warner's swan song. That feels like what the context to this whole test series is. And David Warner, he's got a point to prove, hasn't he? Especially against Mitch Johnson.
Yeah.
164 off 211. Did a little bit of a shush towards the stands as well, towards the journalists. So it's good to see him getting fired up. And Mitch Marsh, he's a really interesting one for me because he was in the test side, then he was out of the test side, then he came back in during the Ashes, ended up just scoring an Ashes 100, being amazing. And now it seems like he's just back in that side. And what a
Mm.
useful person to have in your 11. Somebody that is, just a really good and aggressive number six that can also bowl a fair bit if you need him to.
Yeah, I think Mitch Marsh is, at this point in time, he's a better version of Cameron Green.
Mm.
I would say, in terms of being able to do the whole all round thing. Australia have been looking for a genuine all rounder for a long time, and they've got two um, at the same point, which is quite good for them. I mean, yeah, Mitchell Marsh, we saw how he did in the Ashes um, in last summer, how he completely took apart England in that one game. Yeah, it's very impressive. And just a word on David Warner. If he's gonna go out with a bang, he's got to pick the right opposition. And Pakistan, his numbers are very impressive against Pakistan. I think he averages after that innings over 90 against
Serious.
Pakistan in Test match cricket.
Oh my God.
That's who he scored his 300 odd not out against. Um, yeah, in 17, well, 18 innings now against Pakistan, he's hit 700s. So Pakistan seem to not like bowling against David Warner. David Warner loves to bat against Pakistan. And yeah, he batted incredibly well. I think all this hate towards David Warner, I think at the end of the day, you can't help but see that he's been one of Australia's best ever batsmen. I know his average isn't quite up there with the greats. He averages about 45, but it's still really impressive. I mean, he's the fifth highest test run scorer for Australia. You can't.
I think it's always been the way he goes about it. He's always positive. He's always been aggressive, and
Mm,
I think that's quite an inspiration to future batters.
yeah,
Hopefully they don't copy everything he did. But
yeah,
you know, as far as batters go, especially all format, I think he's one of the greatest all format batters of all time.
yeah,
Just skills that work transferably across all of them is he's way up there, isn't he?
yeah.
Just throw a prediction out there. Do you think Pakistan are going to be able to survive this? Do you think they're going to be able to? Looks like they're already playing for a draw. So do you think they're going to, or do you think this is Australia's?
The way I see it is they're playing at Perth, and Perth. Well, I guess they're a different ground to the Wacker, aren't they? Which is
Mm.
no longer there. But the Perth grounds, it used to be the case where they would break up really quickly over the period of a test match, and the spinners would come into it and wreak havoc. And just Nathan Lyon's just biding his time. I don't think it'll be long until he gets into the batsman, and they could get to 250 for two, and then as soon as they get another wicket, Babar Azam comes in. If they get him out, then I think it will just slowly go in Australia's favour. I can just see Australia just managing to find a way to get all the wickets and bowl Pakistan cheaply in the second innings. That's my prediction. I don't know if you've got a prediction, or do you think Imam Ul Haq will decrease his strike rate to below 20 even? Who knows?
Oh, you know what? Part of me does want, because I'm not actively watching it because it's just a completely different time zone to where we're at.
Yeah.
Part of me does want to just, look it up tomorrow and just see that he's still in and he hasn't
Yeah, the
scored
highlights
any
don't
more
do it
runs.
justice.
I would love that. I would love that. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'd like to see him block out for a whole day, but realistically, I think this is Australia's in the bag. Right.
Yeah.
Um, big, big announcement. There is going to be a live
Huge.
stream of the IPL auction on this channel. Don't forget to watch it. Tell your friends about it. You got to tune in. It is at, what time is it? 2:30,
Indian Standard Time,
I think.
9 a.m. British
British
Standard Time.
time. I think so.
Uh,
But you know when it is. But either way,
yeah.
don't, if you don't want to miss the live stream starting, hit subscribe and hit the bell icon. Okay? That's really important. Um, Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to become a member. There's some good members only stuff coming soon. And thank you once again. See you guys.